And welcome to Small Gold's Indian silver imports for the month of November 2016. Now, is Indian demonetization of their rupee notes and the war on gold pushing Indians into silver? We've heard a lot of talk about how the demonetization of the rupees pushed some Indian gold demand in November and also part of December. But then we heard reports that the Indian government was cracking down on gold some more. There's still that 10% import duty, and that gold is an obvious place for the Indian government to crack down on what they call dark money, as a lot of people, when the announcement was made in early November that the Indian government was going to demonetize the two largest, the most widely used Indian rupee notes, the 500 and 1000 notes, many Indians went and turned them in for gold. Of course, the government was not asleep at the switch there. They saw that happening, and so gold is considered an issue for India because it not only is a place for what they call dark money to be hidden, and people can store their wealth in it, which means it's outside the banking system, but also because it screws up their balance of payments because gold is so expensive and India has no domestic gold mining supply, that they have to import it, and that really throws off their balance of payments because of all the gold coming into the country. Now, silver is cheaper. There's been a lot of talk that, well, if there's an issue with silver, that people will, with gold, the Indians will just move over to silver. Now, that's a pretty simplistic way of looking at it from my point of view, because it's not as if the government doesn't understand that that's what Indians are going to do. So if they're going to crack down on gold ownership, they're not going to leave a loophole for silver ownership. So if you are going to, look at it this way. During Prohibition, if you are a cognac drinker or a champagne drinker, and now you know that you have to maybe risk the rules in order to get your champagne or cognac, you're not going to switch to cheap sparkling wine or cheap brandy just because you're not allowed to have champagne or cognac. Because if you can get champagne or cognac, you might as well get it instead of the cheap sparkling wine or brandy that's imported into the country. So if you're not going to be allowed to have gold or silver, or not necessarily not allowed to have it, but they're going to tax it, they're going to track your purchases, and they're going to do the same whether it's silver or gold, and you've always wanted gold, why would you switch to silver? It doesn't make any sense. So what we saw in November, and we're going to go through the charts now, in November, after the gold, the rupee demonetization announcement was made, gold imports soared in India. They got to the highest level, and we'll see this tomorrow when we go through the gold imports, but briefly they went as high as they had been in a very good year in 2015's December, and about as high as they were in January of 2016. So an extreme boost in gold imports and gold demand in November. But let's take a look what happened in November in silver. We did not see the same spike, and there's a reason for it. Silver is not a substitute for gold, especially for Indians. Silver is not revered in the same way that gold is. Silver is useful. They like it as for adornment. They don't necessarily give it for Diwali or for weddings in the same quantities or in the same reverence in which they give gold. Gold is an auspicious metal for Indians. Silver is not. Silver is valuable. Silver, they import a lot of it. They've got need for it in their solar industry, and they have imported massive amounts over the last 3 years. But it is not a substitute for gold. Silver will continue to be in demand, but we did not see in November any significant increase in silver imports. And the preliminary numbers for December, we didn't see it again in December either. Now, The December numbers for gold and silver are down, but that's not because the Indian people don't want it. It's because they demonetized their notes, and it's harder for them now, if they haven't exchanged their notes to get cash, it's harder for them to purchase the gold or silver. But let's look at November silver Indian imports here. 324 tons, not a bad amount. 10 million ounces. If you think 10 million ounces, that's, more than any given month that the United States Mint ever sells silver eagles. U.S. Mint has never sold 10 million silver eagles in a given month. Most I think they ever sold was about 7.4, I think, in one January in last couple of years ago. So silver imports were down 49% in November from last November, and they were down slightly from October. So we saw no boost whatsoever due to the demonetization in November, and December's was down about 80, 85, 88% from the year before. So a further decrease in the silver imports into India. So the initial answer is no. India's demonetization and war on gold will not lead to greater silver demand in India, primarily right now because there's going to be, at least for the next few months, unless something changes, there will not be any increase in gold or silver imports, at least legally, because the Indians don't have the cash from which to buy it. So both they're projecting, and I would agree, both silver and gold imports will be subdued in 2017. One thing that may help gold is they may lower the duty on gold from 10% to 6%. Keep in mind, silver's never had that duty. So you can't blame the lower silver imports this year on a lack of duty, a lack of, or on a tax that's been in place. There is not that same tax on silver as there is on gold. You can say that the last 2015, 14 and 15 were really big years for silver in India. It was because the price was so cheap. Price went up in 2016, so less buying went on. Now, if you're interested in silver, just a quick sidetrack, you can now buy the 2017 Silver Eagles. I'm not recommending that you do so, but if you do want to get yourself the 2017 Eagles, they are available through the affiliate and the links below this podcast, this YouTube, and also on the Small Gold website, which I'll link to, and you can compare pricing and shipping of your Silver Eagles. And if you do purchase them, Small Gold gets a small commission, so that's why I encourage you, if you are going to buy your silver eagles, gold eagles, whatever precious metals you're going to buy, and you've made the decision, it's not investment advice, but if you are going to do so, please do so through the Small Gold site. That's how I pay the bills here. I get a small commission, and you pay no more, no less than if you visited those sites directly. So if you visit them through the links I provide, hopefully that's a win-win for everybody. Also, if you're interested in donating to Small Gold, you can do so now via Bitcoin. I'll leave a link below, and also via PayPal. You can do that through the site and also on the YouTube link below. So as we've mentioned, Indian silver imports, they were up in 2015, they were up in 2014. Let's take a look at the charts. You can see what's happened over the past few years. Silver really exploded up to 8,529 tons, almost 300 million ounces in 2015. That number in 2016 will probably be about 33, 34, 3,500 tons, which would make it the lowest since 2012. And it's really kind of stopped the upward trend in silver imports into India. However, must keep in mind that 3,200 tons, that's 104 million ounces. That's 20 million ounces more than the record 2015 record of Silver Eagle sold to 47 million, and last year's pretty robust 37 million Silver Eagles sold. So take those two big years, put them together, and you still don't meet the subdued 2016 Indian import amounts of silver. Now here's your monthly chart that shows from August 2014 to November. And you can see the drop off in 2016. It's fairly dramatic. It's a couple of months of February, and it's got nothing to do with these low months have nothing to do with import duties or any crackdown. It just looks like that's when the price really rose. If you look at early 2016, silver really went up, and the Indians shut their wallet. When the price was cheap, they're not stupid. The price they bought it hand over fist. So this year will be a subdued year in silver and probably going forward in 2017. I've got some more charts here. They're starting to get outdated. I will have the updated charts in silver mining output by country for 2016 in the next couple of weeks. You can check that out. These charts illustrate, though, still, even with India's reduced silver demand, that it would still take an entire Mexican annual production to supply Indian domestic import demand. So here's also a chart I put together that shows when 2015, of which we're now off in 2016 about 56-60%, but in 2015 when India imported 273 million ounces, you can see how dramatic that is. I mean, it's compared to the 47 million American Silver Eagles sold, compared to the global silver mining production, it really is a tremendous amount of silver. But even so, this year, they'll produce they'll import 110 million. That'll put you about here. Still a lot. It's just not as dramatic as it was in 2015. That's about it. Tomorrow I'll have the week in review. We've got some interesting content there, and then we'll also have the Indian gold imports for November.